Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to dive straight into the fascinating neuroscience of reading, and we're going to give you a practical, science-backed manual for managing your child's digital screen time. Look, if you've ever fought a losing battle over an iPad, or if you found yourself wondering how all that scrolling is actually rewiring your child's brain, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to look closely at what the latest research tells us, and most importantly, how we can use it to empower the next generation. All right. Here's our roadmap for today. First up, we'll cover the unnatural reading brain. Then, we'll look at how screens alter development. Third, modeling deep reading habits. And finally, building a better future. Section 1, the unnatural reading brain. We're going to start by busting a really common myth. So here is the myth we need to bust right out of the gate. Humans are actually not born with the innate ability to read. I know, it sounds crazy, but a neurotypical brain is born with the hardwired circuitry to let our eyes see and our vocal cords produce sound, but written language, that's entirely invented. If you go all the way back to Sumerian cuneiform and Egyptian hieroglyphics around 3300 BC, writing is incredibly recent. On an evolutionary timescale, that's just the blink of an eye. Our brains simply haven't had enough time to develop a dedicated, prepackaged reading network. Every single time a child is born, they literally have to build this network from scratch. Because there's no pre-installed reading app in the brain, it has to act like a master engineer. To read, a child's brain has to hijack and wire together parts of the brain originally meant for totally different things, like vision, auditory processing, language, attention, and even emotion. It's a fragile, whole-brain constructed network that utilizes all 4 lobes of the cortex. It is literally an incredible feat of neurological engineering happening inside your child's head every time they look at a page. And here's where it gets really wild. Because we build this network from scratch, the specific language we learn literally dictates how our brain gets physically wired. An alphabet-based language like English wires the brain one way, while a logographic system like Chinese, where each idea is represented by a complex symbol, well, that forces the areas involved in visual memory and visual association to do a much, much heavier lift. To see just how distinct these different wirings are, consider this astonishing medical case. Scientists studied a man who was completely fluent in both Chinese and English, and he unfortunately suffered a massive stroke. But astonishingly, the stroke erased his ability to read Chinese, while his English reading proficiency remained totally intact. It's just a beautiful, physical example of how different languages wire completely distinct networks right there in the brain. But reading doesn't just change our wiring, it actually physicalizes our human experience. When children read deeply, they literally feel a character's nervousness or pain in their gut. This happens via the anterior insula, which is a brain region responsible for feelings of nausea and discomfort, and it's directly tied to our empathic processes. So a child reading a sad story isn't just processing words on a page, they are physiologically practicing empathy. Which brings us to Section 2, how screens alter development. Let's talk about the digital impact. When we introduce modern digital screens into this really delicate developmental mix, the medium truly matters. Because our brains are so highly adaptable, they basically mold to the technology they use. Reading on a screen naturally leans toward passive scrolling and skimming, usually interrupted by a dozen alerts. And when we skim, we don't activate those deeper empathic or critical analysis networks, which leaves us highly susceptible to misinformation. Offline deep reading, on the other hand, builds the rigorous critical thinking that's absolutely fundamental to a functioning democracy. And parents, this impact starts incredibly early. Research explicitly shows that at just 8 years of age, the amount of digital exposure a child has directly predicts their attentional executive function processing. In other words, their brain's command center for staying on task. By 8, the screen time you allow is actively shaping their baseline ability to focus, plan, and analyze information. This quote right here serves as a powerful academic warning for caregivers. The data clearly links early unmonitored cell phone and tablet usage to poorer performance in school later in life. It's a stark negative correlation that we can't ignore. The more digital, the worse academic. Have your kids ever put down a tablet, walked into a room literally overflowing with toys, and immediately complained that they're bored? It happens all the time, right? Well, it is simply because screens neurologically train their brains to crave constant, rapid distractions. They become hyperstimulated. They lose the ability to move from one stimulus to the next without desiring an impossibly quick hit of dopamine. Normal, everyday offline life just can't compete with that algorithm. But to be totally impartial and look at the whole picture here, Not all screen time is the enemy. Studies do suggest that strictly monitored, education-focused usage can actually have benefits for children. So it's not about burning all the iPads. It's about the quality, the boundary setting, and making absolutely sure that screens aren't replacing the vital act of deep reading. Feast with this evolutionary mismatch, the fragile nature of the reading brain, and the everyday reality of digital hyperstimulation. How exactly do we fix this for our kids? What is the practical antidote? Section 3, Modeling Deep Reading Habits. Let's get into the practical solutions. Consider this your official owner's manual for immersing children in a reading life. It really comes down to 4 fundamental empowering steps. First, monitor and focused screen time. Second, read out loud to them. Now, for younger children, this specifically means physically holding a book together. Let them turn the pages, use silly, different voices to activate their auditory and emotional networks. Third, model the habit yourself. And fourth, visibly show your own enthusiasm for books. Remember, kids are not born with a reading brain. We absolutely cannot expect them to naturally choose deep reading over hyper-stimulating screens. You have to actively cultivate that circuitry. Try creating a physical environment in your home that invites deep reading. Maybe it's a cozy chair with good lighting and a strict no screens rule. Sit in that chair yourself and let your kids catch you reading a physical book. Your actions map directly onto their developing brains. Section 4, Building a Better Future. Let's look at the overarching reason for all of this. Why does dedicating so much time to these offline habits matter in the grand scheme of things? Because deep reading is far more than just a school requirement or a way to pass a spelling test. It is a fundamental pillar of our humanity. When children learn to read deeply, they develop that anterior insula. They physically practice empathy. They learn to analyze complex, nuanced thoughts. That process of changing the minds and hearts of individuals is exactly what allows us to build bigger, more beautiful futures for society as a whole. Armed with this incredible science, the power is entirely in your hands. You now know that screens shape the brain for skimming, but deep reading wires it for profound empathy and critical thought. So I'll leave you with this. How will you begin modeling a vibrant reading life for the next generation today? Go grab a physical book, gather your kids around, and start building those beautiful brains. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.